Hey everyone, White24 here. As you probably saw, Ubisoft released a new gameplay trailer for AC Origins called The Order of the Ancients. As the name suggests, it's about the Order, the Proto-Templars of the game, and because this trailer is full of really interesting details, I thought it could be cool to do a breakdown and speculate about the story of the game. So without further ado, let's get into it. On this first shot we can see dead people in the desert, and I initially thought that a battle had happened, but if you look closely you can see that the dead people are just random citizens. They have no armor, and so it's probably just a massacre ordered by the Proto-Templars. Here we have our first look at the Order. They seem to be inside some sort of tomb or maybe a pyramid. For me this scene is taking place at the same time as the one that you'll see later with Bayek being kidnapped, but we'll go back to that later. This could be the actual headquarters of the Order. They even have their own conspiracy table, so... And here's a very interesting detail. One of the members of the Order, he's holding a scepter, which looks like the Scepter of Asset that is mentioned in the French AC comics. So the thing is, the French comics aren't canon anymore, so maybe they made the scepter canon for the game only. And so far we know that the main power of the scepter is to give charisma to the one who holds it. And a few shots later we can see Ptolemy 13 holding the scepter, so that could explain how he keeps ruling the country despite the civil war and his young age. Going back to the beginning of the trailer, we can see members of the Order worshipping a skull that is wearing the Pshent. It is the name of the double crown worn by pharaohs in ancient Egypt. So the members of the Order are worshipping pharaohs, and apparently one in particular. And you know, like, pharaohs were considered to be gods in ancient Egypt. And it's really interesting because the voice over in the trailer, which is the voice of Cleopatra, says that the Order is looking for the power of the gods. So for me it means that in ancient Egypt pharaohs were seen as gods because they were using pieces of Eden, and the Order is now looking for those artifacts to rule Egypt with strength as the pharaohs used to. Now the main question is, whose skull is that? And I think we'll only find out in the actual game. Next shot showcases a dead guy, and we see one of the masked ones in the background. So for me it means that in this game the Templars will conduct some kind of crazy experiments on humans with or without pieces of Eden. One of those experiments could actually be bringing back people to life with the Ankh, for example. And I really like this idea because it reminds me of AC1. You know, there was this Templar called Garnier de Naplouse who was trying to heal people without the apple. Here we can see Ptolemy again with a soldier who might actually be General Achillas, a general who joined Ptolemy's side when Cleopatra was exiled, and he will probably be one of Bayek's targets or one of the many boss fights in the game. Again, the shot of Ptolemy holding the scepter. As you see, the masked ones are behind him. They are the one controlling his decisions and making sure he serves the Order's interests. And what's interesting is that historically Ptolemy was really influenced by a group of people because of his young age. Here's a beautiful shot of the pyramids of Giza, if I'm not mistaken. As I said, for me, the Templars will try some crazy experiments, and here we can see that the masked one is making scarabs falling from the sky. So my theory is that the scenes of the trailer, which are a bit too supernatural, aren't actually real. They are part of Bayek's dreams or nightmares. So if you remember in the Gamescom demo, when Bayek meets his wife Aya, she asks him about his dreams, and he says that he doesn't want to talk about it. So for me it would make sense to have weird dreams slash hallucinations sequences in the game. It's pretty clear that the devs will play with the mystical aspect of Egypt, and I'm really excited for that. And that could also explain how Bayek will meet the giant snake that we saw in the very first trailer. Here's another member of the Order, Khaliset, who according to the trailer has the ability to tame animals and use them against our enemies, which is something that Bayek can do as well in the game. This is Medunamund, who was presented as the fake oracle during the very first presentation of the game at E3. We also see people crucified, again probably by the Order. Another shot showcasing the massacres of the Proto-Templars. So my theory is that, as I said before, the Order will be looking for the powers of the gods. So they will probably conduct research all around Egypt, and especially in very old locations where pieces of Eden might be, and the locals who protest will be murdered by the Order. Here's another weird scene in which the masked one is doing telekinesis. Once again, the question is that real or is that a dream? So for me it is a dream, especially because he doesn't seem to be using any pieces of Eden and the background is a bit weird, but I love the idea of having really mystical dreams in the game. It kind of reminds me of Arno's initiation in Unity, but of course here it would be even more interesting because Egypt is a very mysterious location. And that is probably the most interesting scene of the trailer for me story-wise. Cleopatra says that the Order is the reason behind Bayek's pain and anger, and we can see him being kidnapped and beaten by the masked ones. So for me this scene is taking place at the beginning of the game, and that's the moment when Bayek will meet most of the members of the Order. And if you remember, before the release of the trailer, Ubisoft released those creepy promo videos in which we could hear some very mysterious dialogues.
Do you remember me?
Do you remember me?
We have already met.
You've chosen the wrong side.
You remember. It was the worst day of your life.
And now those dialogues kind of make sense to me. I think at the beginning of the game the Order will go to Siwa, probably to search for a piece of Eden in this sacred region. It could be the apple. The apple could even be an artifact that Bayek has to protect. I don't know. And so Bayek as a Magi and some sort of sheriff will oppose the Order and will probably upset them. So they will kidnap him and beat him, as we can see in the trailer. But in one of the short promo videos we had this mysterious sentence, "Do you remember his last smile?" Which means that not only they will kidnap Bayek in the game, but they will also kill someone that he cares about. So I have two theories on that. The first one being that it's Bayek's father that will be killed, because the prequel novel for the game introduces Bayek's parents, and because the masked ones say his last smile, it could be his father. But I'm not a huge fan of this theory because we've seen so many times an assassin losing one of his parents in the franchise, so at this point I think it would be just boring. But the second theory, which is much more interesting, is that Bayek and Aya, they have a child at the beginning of the game, and this child was killed by the Order. And I really like this idea because it fits with Bayek's character. You know, at the beginning of the game he's in his 30s, he's married, and that will make a very interesting contrast with what we saw in previous games. As I said, we've seen so many times a young character losing one of his parents or both and then going on his quest. So having the opposite with a father losing his child would be refreshing and super interesting, as it will allow the game to explore new themes. And the reason why I said that I think the Templars will be looking for the apple in Siwa is because we can see one of the Proto-Templars holding the apple in this scene. So now let's get back to the trailer. We can see Bayek alongside Cleopatra. We know that she will ask for his help to destroy the Order so that she can reclaim her throne, but we also know that in the lore she was murdered by Amunet, an assassin. So maybe Cleopatra will change sides during the game, probably after meeting Caesar, but it's really hard to say because we don't know what these characters are really looking for yet. And we don't know if the game will follow her until her death in 30 BCE, but I bet that she will betray Bayek at some point in the game. And I also like the theory saying that Amunet could be Bayek's other child. Once again, we see how cruel the Order is. For me, they are showing to people of Egypt what will happen if they try to resist. General Achillas is preparing his army for what might be the biggest battle in the game. Here's another really interesting scene. Medunamun is actually holding the Apple of Eden to beat someone, and this scene will probably be really violent because we now know that the game will feature a scene with a man beaten to death with an orb, so it's likely to be this specific scene. Once again, violence. The game seems to be more mature and darker than previous entries, even though we know that some quests will have a lighter tone. It's hard to analyze this scene, but it could be part of the Siege of Alexandria, which happened in 47 BCE. Again, General Achillas, who will likely be one of the boss fights. Here we can have a look at Cyrene, a Greek colony located just northwest of the map of the game. As you can see, the environments are completely different from the classic Egyptian landscapes that we've seen so far. So it's really cool to have this kind of diversity in the game's world. another member of the Order who is called the Duelist. Looks like it will be another really epic arena fight. A little taste of the naval combat. If you didn't like naval gameplay in AC4 or Rogue, don't worry, it will not be as pushed as in those games. And what's interesting is that we can actually see the assassin insignia on the ship. A little homage to Black Flag, a man's being buried alive, which is super weird. Again, Medunamund, she should be a key member of the Order, and now he's facing a sunstorm, and this scene is actually very weird because it gives the impression that he's welcoming the sunstorm, just like if he had caused it with a piece of Eden. Bayek's in the middle of a sunstorm as well, the face full of blood, and what's interesting is that we can see that he has a beard, so beard are pretty much confirmed for the game. Now the question is, will it be a dynamic beard which grows as you play through the game, or will it be a customizable one? We'll see. Another battle, and I can't wait to see how they will look in the actual game. We know that with the Anvil engine they can have like thousands of NPCs on screen, so I'm really excited to see how the battles will be. And the last scene is another battle with elephants this time, so it's likely to be one of the side activities which are called war elephants. I'm curious to see what those activities will be about. So I think that's it. As I said at the beginning of the video, the trailer is full of really cool details. I hope you learned some interesting new things, and if you guys have any theory on the story, make sure to share that in the comment section. I just love doing that video, so if you guys enjoyed it, let me know and we'll do more of those in the future. And until then, bye everyone.